Hey, this is Mark Henry here to talk to you more about the occult and paranormal. Well, today I'm going to be talking a little bit about a specific type of spirit guide. And in some ways, this is to me, the most impressive and most important of your spirit guides that you have around you. And that is your master teacher guide. And just to explain a little bit, this comes from the American spiritualist tradition. In case you weren't aware, in the mid 1800s to late 1800s and even into the 20th century, it was fashionable to speak to the dead. That's where you have the first mediums coming through. There's even, if you look at in history, Abraham Lincoln and his wife were going to mediums in order to try to connect with a child that passed on. This was something that was part of our American culture at one point. However, not to digress, in the spiritualist tradition, I've mentioned that there are different categories of guides. So I'll remind you of a few. One is the joy guide, which is an entity that comes to you to help you with joy, happiness, laughter. Some say that if you are struck by laughter, a lightheartedness out of the blue, that it could be your joy guide trying to connect with you and trying to talk with you, trying to lighten the mood, trying to get you to experience that aspect of life. Then there is the Doctor of Chemistry. The Doctor of Chemistry guide is someone who works with people who are trying to communicate with spirits. They work on their biochemistry. And because our mind and body and spirit are one, they try to work with that aspect of us in order to better connect with spirit. And if you think about back then, there were these things called apports, which came out of the blue. Ectoplasm, you've probably seen pictures of that on the internet, where you have a merging of the spirit creating physical things. So the Doctor of Chemistry works with that person in their spiritual pursuits and at the same time with the relationship between their body chemistry. There's the Doctor of Philosophy. So the Doctor of Philosophy is going to be someone who works with you on your spiritual beliefs, on your wisdom, understanding life, understanding the philosophy that you need in order to conduct and navigate your life. And there are other guides too. There is protector guides. That's pretty self-explanatory. We naturally have guides that protect us from harm. Now, putting yourself in dangerous positions is not a good idea. Don't test them. But according to the spiritualist tradition, that they do give us warnings. They do take a small brunt of some of the things that come to us. Our lives would be a lot worse and a lot more chaotic if they weren't around to assist us in some way. So that is just kind of a few of the guides that are working with us. We can work with these guides consciously, or they can also work within the backgrounds, trying to help us along in some small ways, to nudge us. These guides, that is what they do, they serve. We have made agreements with some of these guides to help us in this life. And I kind of mentioned a little bit about, in my birthday video, about the commitment to come here on this earth plane, and why birthdays are important as kind of an anniversary of the fulfillment of that promise, which is no small thing. In any case, master teachers. So a master teacher guide is the primary guide. I perceive my master teacher guide, and I suspect is that way for many other people who experience their master teacher guides, as being have the most vitality, to have the most presence, and the most power. I can feel this particular spirit much more than maybe even the subtle other spirits, the subtle effects of the other spirits. It's unmistakable when he comes by. He also will come by when something really needs to be done. He's kind of like the spirit guide special forces. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but his name is John. Now, John, when we're talking about names of spirit guides, names are not so important to them, although if they give you a name, it will probably have some sort of meaning. Maybe you may not get their meaning of the guide now in the significance of the name, but you might get it later. Now, when he gave me his name when I was 18, I thought, well, this isn't a very kind of, this is a very vanilla name, why isn't it John the Wise or something like that? However, John, with his personality, he is very much behind the scenes, and he is there being unobtrusive, being in the light, yet, still there. I got to understand in meditation later that when we talk about somebody who we don't know the name, whether it's a dead body that comes up, they refer to him as a John Doe. So it's somebody but nobody that has a name. So I understand it to be kind of a little bit of a joke. It's John Doe. So I confirmed that with him. So it took me years to get what that was about. But in any case, so master teacher guides, they always work for us, never against us, of course, but they also work for our highest good. Now, our other guides do work for our highest good most of the time. However, you could conceivably obtain a guide who wants you, or you may make a deal with, to obtain something that would be more of a base desire, or something that would be a temporary type of pleasure or a temporary goal, which would not be kind of for our long-term benefit. Our master teacher guide is not like that at all. He will only work for she will only work for our highest good, and only for the highest purpose, and only in the context of what is best for us long-term for our spiritual growth. I consider mine to be almost like the supervisor of the other guides. He seems to have the most experience, the most knowledge. It is said that the master teacher guide has lived on our plane before, and now he or she is a guide. Of course, he or she is irrelevant because they're spirit, of course. There are guides now, but it helps to get them to not only be able to help us, but to experience and empathize with us on our level, so they have the fullest knowledge of all the other guides. Some of our other guides may not have been here at all. They may have been just here to kind of assist humanity and to assist you. They didn't necessarily live on our plane and then transition to something else. What other things? Yes, they will withhold information. Your master teacher guide, because it is here for your highest good and for the greatest good of you, they will withhold information. You may want to know the future, and they will maybe not tell you. There is usually a purpose for that. You knowing something might be a violation of some type of agreement, or it could be the fact that if you knew this, that it would somehow harm you. They may tell you that something's coming along and maybe how to deal with it effectively, but I've known plenty of times where something happened to me, and I'm like, well, how come no one told me? You know, I've been in meditation, I've been in contact with my guides, and yet this information wasn't revealed. And that seems to be part of the mystery of guides. And that's basically it, I guess, for master guides and their purpose. Now, how would you communicate with your master guide? And I guess you can use this information if you want to connect with any of your guides, because I think this is very important in your occult knowledge. One is to learn how to meditate. I think that's a vitally important skill. If there was, and other authors have said this, if there's one skill that someone can learn, and let me put it this way, if there was a skill, if you had all of these different occult abilities and skills, and one had to be kept and all of the other ones had to be discarded, you keep your meditation, because it is the doorway, it is the gateway to all of the other abilities, all of the other powers, I guess you would say. You need to be in a certain meditative state of mind or an altered state of mind to do magic. You need to be in that to connect with your guides. You need to do it with many other things in the paranormal. So let's say that you have a little bit of skill in meditation. You have a regular time, once, twice, 3 times a week to meet with your guides. Call in your master teacher. Ask to be introduced. One of the skills to be learned also when you're doing spirit communication is learning what is you and what is them. So you have to have some self-awareness. You have to know, okay, what is the feeling and what is the noise when it's me talking to myself, and what is it when something other than me is speaking to me through a thought language. That takes a little bit of time, it takes a little bit of practice, and that's why meditation is good, because meditation can calm that chatter down in your mind. It could clear out some of the tension and random stuff that is just in your body mind. And when you clear that up, not only is it clear, but you'd be more likely to receive sometimes even more subtle signals coming from the spirit world. All right. Hope I haven't rambled on too much. This is Mark Henry. Please subscribe and like, and I will talk to you in a future video.